Thank you for joining us today in episode 90 of the Pool Chasers podcast. As always, our mission is to help educate and inspire in the form of a podcast. Well, we had quite a curveball thrown at us with this episode, let me tell you. We drove all the way out to Long Beach and were prepared to do our final stop of the live tour, only to find out that the city was suggesting not having large group gatherings. We decided that it was the best health interest for everyone that we canceled the event. We were pretty bummed, but, as always, we adjusted and we're still able to record an epic episode with our friends Rich, Javier, and Dustin. During the episode, we define what a 1099 independent contractor and a W-2 employee are and how they are typically used in the industry. We discuss the advantages and disadvantages of both. We also discussed a new AB 5 law in California and how it is affecting the industry as well as how to adjust to it. It's a great conversation to help everyone get prepared for what might make its way through the country. The overall goal of this episode was to help businesses figure out where you fit in this conversation and help make the transition if necessary. I know when we were running Brothers that this topic was always being discussed between Greg and I, and since we started Pool Chasers, it's one of the most asked for topics. We hope this episode will help you get a better understanding of it. Please enjoy this episode with Rich Gallo, Javier Payan, and Dustin Anderson. Welcome to your go-to podcast for the pool and spa industry. My name is Tyler Rasmussen.
And my name is Greg Villafania. And this is the Pool Chasers Podcast.
Thank you guys very much. Appreciate you taking the time to be here with us. Really looking forward to this podcast episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Thank you for having us, man.
Yeah. So can you all please introduce yourselves to everybody that might not know you?
Yeah, Rich Gallo, Pure Swim, Los Angeles. This June will be our 29th year in business. We service about 240 pools weekly, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, congratulations. That's
Thanks.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It is awesome, man. I'm Dustin Anderson, Precision Aquatics, pool service and repair. We're out of San Diego, North San Diego County, Vista. We're a commercial-focused service and repair company, and we service about maybe close to 100 commercials. We still have some residential, maybe about 150 residential. And we've been in business since 2008.
Very good. When you heard 30 years from Rich, did you decide to use the date instead of how many years?
Yes.
It's like, it's just
June 1991. 1991 in the house.
Gotta get my,
awesome.
my calculator out. Javier Payan Pool Service out of San Diego County here. I've been in business since 1987, so 35 years, somewhere in there. We service about 600 pools a week right now, and most of them are residential, but we still have a good handful, probably about 50 commercial properties that we deal with.
Wow, that's incredible. Thank you guys. Appreciate you.
Yeah, you guys all been on here before and been awesome episodes, so we're excited to spend time with you all again and get more of like a topical episode with you. You don't got to be so serious either. You kind of just flip the switch.
Sorry. We'll loosen up. I promise.
Oh, no, you're talking to me now.
So we want to start off by, defining what an independent contractor is. How have independent contractors typically been used in our industry?
I mean, from my perspective, independent contractors are, there's still a lot of them, and there's a right way and a wrong way to use them. But I think what we're talking about mostly today is on the pool service side. I think we see that this industry has utilized the 1099 or independent contractor as a way to, they're essentially employees, but they are calling them independent contractors. So, I think everybody can speak for themselves, their experience as to what they see out there. But I think what we're seeing is a lot of companies that service more pools than they can handle, the main person can handle. So they use somebody as a 1099 to take care of swimming pools. Whether or not that's repair or service doesn't really matter, but that's what we see.
Yeah, before we get started, I just wanted to, I had this little quote I brought up by a guy named Arthur Godfrey. He said that I'm proud to pay tax in the United States. The only thing is I'd be just as proud paying half the money. So I just want to kind of set that tone, because I know we're talking about employment law and 1099s and how to best run your businesses. And I'm not a big fan of paying taxes, but you have to. That's just what paves the roads and, keeps kids in school and stuff. So I just want to kind of throw that out there, because I know we've always hired people as W-2s, and it can be controversial, but for the sake of this podcast, I just want to throw that out. But on the 1099 stuff, or independent contractors, I look at it in terms of different industries. So an independent contractor in general means it's somebody that is a freelancer that works for themselves, that is like a hired gun, like in a hairdresser situation or a pool situation or whatever the industry is. It's when done right, then there's a right way to do it, But I think that the pitfall in the pool industry is it's not focused on doing the right thing. It's mainly a convenience thing. That's how I see it.
Right. And we were talking a little bit before, we hit live and recorded. Have any of you ever had independent contractors? I mean, from the very, very beginning that maybe transitioned into employees? Because that it's pretty difficult. And when you start a company or you start a business, that comes with a lot of responsibility, and you got to choose. Maybe you're not up for the challenge at this point in time and you should go work for somebody, and there's nothing wrong with that. This is a great business to go work for somebody. You can still make a lot of money, and they take care of all your taxes and all that stuff for you. Did any of you guys have independent contractors and you just were asking the right questions on how to do this more responsibly?
Yeah, when I started out, I definitely used the 1099 model. It was just, the way to do it. It was convenient. It actually made things affordable. And it, the whole idea of just having all the taxes and all the payroll and all the, requirements that you need to do. I mean, I was aware of them, but it just seemed like way more than just being the quote unquote pool guy or a pool business. I mean, after all, we're in people's backyards taking care of their pools. And this just seemed like a much bigger step that was outside of what our normal was. It just wasn't feasible. It just wasn't something that was easily to do. It cost money, and it took more money to do it right. I just knew that eventually I'll get there. I'm going to have to get there. I'm going to want to get there. So it was just a matter of deciding when will that, some point be. And then once I decided, it's going to be at this point, I wanted to really stick to that point and then get over that hump and get on to the next, deal. So that's how I'd utilize that.
Right. And when you probably realize this was a different time when there wasn't a lot of information on the internet or even the e-sign documents that you could do. You had to actually go probably to, I don't know, the courthouse, submit it to the newspapers or whatever you had to do.
Absolutely. This is before the internet. So this is Thomas guide, this is, not typewriter stuff, but
I'm just saying that's still really impressive, because we have we talk about on the podcast, we're at the shows, the information is everywhere. You can't say that you don't know anymore. And there's so much that you can do like online. Yeah. So thank you for sharing all of that.
Yeah.
Do you guys have anything else on that?
Yeah. I mean, I think that for me, the one thing that I remember a lot was me being really involved in the service side of things and still learning the repair side. Of course, I wanted to do everything, but I not only didn't have time for it, but didn't know everything. So I would have guys that would be willing to, people that were mentors to me. And when I needed to do a full equipment set that I wasn't comfortable with, I would ask them to help me. And that was my example of a 1099 is, I would pay an individual a certain amount of money agreed upon to help me do this equipment set. And at the end of the year, maybe we did 5 of them and he would get a 1099. And that was normal is what I thought back then. It wasn't correct, but that's what we did. I never had pool service guys really as 1099s, but I know that, like you said, the information is there. It's easy to get. Not a lot of people know a lot in it. So
yeah. I think we wanted to all kind of preface too just a little bit that we all grown up, in the industry learning these different ways from different people that, we're not trying to say that there's only one way everybody's done it. Everybody's kind of learned their own way, by talking to other pool guys and learning, hey, this is how you do it. And you just hear that you're supposed to hire this guy at 1099 and you just do it. And it's kind of like we just really want to help educate people on what kind of the right way is supposed to be and help people get there if they're not, or, most businesses in this industry have had to use that in a way to grow. Right. And that's what we've done. So, we all just kind of realize now with the AB5 law, which we'll talk about later, it's kind of hands being forced a little bit to go this direction. So we just want to kind of help figure out maybe where each company is at. So if you're listening, figure out where you're fitting into this whole conversation and what you may or may need to do to kind of get to somewhere else, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's just our, this is our story. We all have three probably completely different stories. I'm definitely not an expert in this field, but I'm more than have always been an open book. I've just shared my experience and my story as to how we've come to where we are today, which we're still learning. I'm sure if, an expert broke down my books, everything is not perfect, but we're doing our best to comply with everything that we understand as, California state law running proper business. So that's, thanks for saying that, because that's by no means I'm not an expert in this field, but this is our story, and we hope that at least we can educate some people, because really when I was starting, there was nothing like this. Right. Nobody would take the time to explain the business side. You could get someone to teach you how to put a pump in, but the business side is a real tough thing for this business. A lot of us are, I would say all or most of us are not formally trained in the business side. So all the help we can get is I think really beneficial for our industry.
Right. And when we had our company, Brothers Pool Service, we felt it at a certain point where it's like, we didn't know you guys yet, but we are never going to grow bigger than we were in being a big responsible company like you guys have. And I think a lot of people need to understand that too, that when you're not doing things right, you can only go so far, because you're not going to be able to sleep at night, and you're going to be looking over your shoulder like, she's not supposed to do that, or I'm not supposed to do that. Or it's like, that's no way to live. Why not set up these goals to where you can wake up every day feeling great that your team is taken care of? Somebody gets hurt, they can go doctor visit. We have insurance that's going to take care of it. We've got company vehicles. Everything's in place so everybody's taken care of. With talking to you guys, we think that you guys got it really dialed in. So, we always look back at when we had Brothers, and you get to a point where just like, the way we're doing things, we really need to change them. No matter what kind of advice we've gotten, we need to throw that out the window and go in another direction. Because when you have a business, there's nobody there to take care of it for you. It's your job to go out and figure everything out. So,
just want to kind of just talk about 1099 for a second, a little bit more. So if you're doing it the right way, and let's just say I know that California law, we'll talk about later, changes a little bit, but they should, if you are hiring somebody, they should have their own license and have their own insurance so that they're protected, and probably be paying workman's comp on themselves and doing it the correct way. That's what a 1099 like legally is. It's somebody who has their own business. Now we'll get into like how you use it, but defining that, is kind of what the proper way of a 1099 is. You're supposed to have their own insurance, their own everything, and then their own business, coordinating between different businesses. But somebody that you hire that doesn't have any of that is not technically a proper 1099.
Can you supply a company vehicle to an independent contractor?
Good question. I don't know. I don't know if you would, I don't know if it'd be a smart decision to do it. I guess maybe if you're like in an effort to try to keep somebody on the road working. But I think as we dive into figuring out what it actually, specifically in our business, because a lot of the stuff we read that's come out about independent contractors, it's real nice to read, and it is pretty simple to understand. But as it pertains to the swimming pool industry, it's very easy to, there's just so few scenarios that a 1099 is appropriate for this business. And I think we'll hash some of that out. I know we talked a little bit about it earlier. So I've never seen that before.
Yeah. I want to jump in here because when we started our business, the first employee I had, I was in the first year of doing business, and he was always a W-2. Now, since then, especially in the early days, I would use independent contractors to do filter cleanings or other stuff that I couldn't do. I also had another guy from my IPSA chapter that we actually split a 1099 guy. And so, I've had some 1099 guys come and go kind of over the past. For the most part, we're all W-2 straight up. That's about it. But getting back to your question about can you supply a vehicle, I think it kind of got a eerie quietness about, it's like, I'm thinking, why would you do that? Because it's like, whatever you're doing, just play by those rules. So if you have an independent contractor, he's an independent contractor. The minute you supply a vehicle, what goes through my mind, okay, what happens if he gets in an accident? Is it his truck? Is it your truck? This is just a really foggy thing that when, as you said, Greg, you want to sleep at night, you want to just do whatever set of rules you're playing by, stick to those and uphold them and be clean about it.
Yeah. And, this was such a difficult thing for us because we'd always get frustrated that there was a lot of things that we couldn't say to the independent contractors, or we would just go back and be like, dude, we we shouldn't have said that. These aren't employees. And that's when we got to the point where we're just like, you know what, maybe we should think about making the most valuable person on the team at this point a employee, and document that process and seeing how much it costs us and all these different things, so that we can set ourselves up for making our service manager an employee, and then our office manager and all those different things.
Hi, Kyle.
Yeah, there's one right there. He's still an employee.
Yeah, it was super. I mean, I remember lots of discussions between you and I when everybody would go home at the end of the day, and then we would get a phone call and the customer says, hey, something's wrong with my pool. There is no way that I could call that guy to tell him to come back and go to that pool. Zero way. And that was super frustrating as a 1099 person, because, once they're done, they're done. Their day is over. You can't call them back. You can't tell them this. And then there's a weird line of like, well, did he do the job completely? Because technically, if there's a problem, there's still, he didn't complete the job that I asked him to do. So there's this really fine frustration line that's like, I'm just going to go clean the pool now because I have to, because I don't know how to handle this. And that's the stuff that's very difficult.
You can't control anything. It's like, if you want them to be there at 6 a.m. and you want them to wear blue Dickies and the work shirt, and you want them to go through training and do all this, like, that's stuff that if you've worked for anyone else, any company, you've worked at Pizza Hut or you've worked for a furniture place or anything like that, like, those people can do that at Best Buy because they're employees. They can tell them, like, your shift starts at this time. It's completely different. How do you guys feel about that relationship between the independent contractor and the owner?
Well, the independent contractor and owner, it's exactly what you just said. You just don't have that control. You don't want to overstep boundaries. The laws are put into play that you can't direct them. You can't have company meetings and things like that. So you lose a lot of control and a lot of quality control, but then that goes into a whole other area of you trying to build and develop your brand. And then now all of a sudden that's, getting a lot of cracks in the armor. So when you have employees, that's the opposite. You're basically now building that brand, you're building that loyalty, you're building everything that you want as far as your vision. You have company meetings, you get everybody on the same page. Everybody kind of dials in because they're more vested into being an employee and being part of something, rather than, well, I'm just a part of this company and 5 other companies, and if this guy gives me an attitude, then hey man, there's always some other guy out there looking for, give me 20, 30 pools to go do. So there's nothing really vested. Plus that guy that's an independent guy, that guy's trying to build his own brand. That guy's actually going to be your competitor, soon. So that whole idea just became something that, was clear, and more reason to get away from.
So I'm curious, like, what is the worst case scenario? Because we talk a lot about that you shouldn't do it, and I think we were talking about something similar to this earlier, but what can a independent contractor do when it's like, I need you here at this time and I'm telling you what to do. You wear my uniform, you're doing the training. Like, what can happen? Can he go tell somebody? What happens?
I think I just heard you violate 3 labor codes right there.
Right. Hey, you go right to the labor board,
Well, I mean, you lose, you're talking about building a brand and trying to build a team. You lose a ton of control. But as much as, if you're running a business that these guys are 1099s, truthfully, the guys who are being 1099 know as little about the law as you do. So a lot of these guys are fine with acting like employees. But the issue is you are a stepping stone for them ultimately in the long run. You're training your next competitor. And as you work hard on that brand and trying to develop a company, I mean, as I think all of us could vouch for, I mean, it's like, I know we all work hard, but our team is what drives us, is what our reputation is about, the people that I send in the backyard. So everything that I do has to do with trying to support these guys who have made a sacrifice where they are not working for other people. They trust me to steer the ship, but they are the really the heart of our business. And so, I'd give anything for the guys that are on my team. But can you do that for a guy that's a 1099 that may very well take your customer list and dip out on you tomorrow? That's a lot of trust to put into somebody that you may have not invested as much into. They can burn you. Lots of horror stories out there. But I think if you take the step and you make them employees and you invest that time into them, they truly appreciate it. They understand that it costs us as employers a lot of money to, not only you try to pay them good money, but it costs us a lot of money to employ them. And you hope that they pay that back in quality service and that type of thing.
Right. And that's difficult when they're independent contractors because they've probably been nothing but independent contractors. So they expect a lot of different things where it's like, oh, I know I'm using my truck and I leave from my house when I want to. And it's like, oh,
so that's why it's
you know what I
bad
mean?
for the business, man.
Well, like when you guys were building Brothers Pool Service, I look at it from a whole different perspective. What does your customer think when you go to sign somebody up as a customer? Hey, okay, it's going to be X amount per month. Here's what we're going to do. Then the pool tech shows up. In your customer's mind, is he an independent contractor? Is he a bona fide employee of Brothers Pool Service? And then, so if you look at it from that standpoint, whatever story you got going on with the relationship with your worker, if it's a 1099 W-2, what your customer think. And most customers, I don't think, are savvy enough to really understand the difference. But I look at it because crap is happening at our place every day. There's something going on. But what happens when there's a work-related injury and then there's no insurance? So you got to kind of look at it from the customer's point of view, what their perspective is when they hire Brothers or Precision or Pure Swim or Pie and Pools. What is their impression of the person in the backyard?
well, you know what? Not to make excuses, but we really didn't have an idea. We were always doing the best that we could in learning what the trade was. And everybody always had a uniform and looked the part and probably shouldn't have, but just being totally honest. And then when we stumbled, across wanting to grow and get bigger and we wanted people to have insurance and be employees, these are things that we get preached all the things of the industry about equipment and this and that, all these different things. Not once did anybody come knocking on our door or send us an email that said anything about these are the steps you need to take in running a responsible, legitimate pool service and repair company in Scottsdale, Arizona. Like nothing even close. So we should have done our homework as you guys did. And we got to a point, a few years in where we did, and we started, making those jumps, and they were difficult and they were very costly, but we did sleep a lot better at night. And, that's what this is all about. It's like, it's never too late. Yeah. You might not be able to flip the whole company right away, but it's like, know that this is a problem and going to start, surely but slowly making these things happen. Cause I don't think a lot of people will get to your guys' level if they don't.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, yeah, and as a company, you're vulnerable to the weakest link. I mean, we talked about earlier about different injuries that our staff has had or we've had personally, and if you look at it like like dog bites, Rich said he got bit by a dog pretty severely on his Achilles heel, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Guy's gangster, man.
Totally. The guy walked to the hospital from there, even though he has a nice truck, just so it can become a story. But if Rich is out working as Rich's pool service, and he gets bit by a dog. Really, who cares? Nobody cares. No one's coming after him. Now, if Rich's employee or a 1099 guy gets bit in the backyard, it's a whole different ball game, a whole different set of circumstances.
So what would happen in that scenario?
So injury happens, dog bite, paper cut, whatever the case is. They're going to get some medical attention. The minute they go to the urgent care or the emergency room, they're going to ask what happened. And so you're going to say, well, I was at work working for Rich and I got bit by a dog. And they say, oh, you're at work. Okay. Then they're going to call Rich and get a work comp policy. The problem is, again, one of the things I said earlier, there's a right way to do 1099 stuff. And the laws have always been a little murky. I think with this AB5, they're adding more definition, which tightens things. In this case, guys in the emergency room, they're going to ask him what happened. Now, if he's a 1099 and he's working out of his own truck and he's getting $10 a pool or whatever he's getting, he may or may not have health insurance. So if he has health insurance and everyone's cool, it's not severe, no big deal. But if he doesn't, and he's going to be looking at getting the medical bills, he's going to really quickly flip on Rich and say, no, I work for Rich. In the state of California, I'm sure it's this way in a lot of other states, the labor board is always going to side with the employee. That's just always going to be that way. And so then now Rich gets the phone call. The guy's leg gets fixed, so he's all good. That's a good story there. But then now Rich has to explain why he had a person on working for him that wasn't covered under his work comp policy. And he's going to say, well, the guy's a 1099, and they're going to ask him, and all the guy has to do is say, no, I'm not, and then it's
So you're just asking for like an immediate audit on your business. It's like, well, you've been in business for 10, 15 years. Why is this guy, and he's been working with you for 5 years and he's still an independent contractor? Like slowly it's just unraveling, and it's like,
there's a lot of
I think
pages
that answers
to it.
your question about like the worst case scenario is that like going to labor board and them saying they're employee. Because then, like we talked about earlier, you get, if they figure out and they confirm that dude is an employee, then they're going all the way back to the beginning of that employment, and you're paying payroll taxes on everything, and you're paying workman's comp on everything. That's like the worst case scenario, them going to labor board and saying, I'm an employee.
Especially if you're running a company that has 7, 8, 1099s, you've got 1,000 pools under your belt, and you are, because I mean, we all know these companies, we compete against them all the time, and that this is the problem, we'll get into talking about, but it's like leveling the playing field. We are not doing the same job. We are both quoting pool service and talking about doing pool service, but your cost of doing business is completely different than our cost of doing business, because you have all of these guys you call employees, and they may have really nice uniforms, and maybe even they have the cool decals on their truck. Maybe they're their personal trucks, but I paid for the decals, whatever. It doesn't matter how you look from the outside. It's the paperwork that matters. And yeah, it takes something as little as a dog bite or something that could be completely out of your control, like a car accident. Car accidents in this business are a big deal. There's hazmat involved. We have chemicals in our truck that when they mix, it creates big problems, and it may have nothing to do with how careful this person was. And they may not be a bad person that's trying to get after you as a business owner, but stuff happens, and there are questions you will have to answer as the owner of the company, and they are going to be expensive.
Yeah, we've had some really good talks, Dustin, because you've expressed how you feel about Yelp and different things like that, and I took a lot of time in thinking about a lot of that, and I think you're totally right that it's not an even playing field. Whereas there's a company that's just independent contractors, and you're competing with them, and they're getting some of the best jobs from maybe Yelp or something like that, because they're very aggressive and getting the reviews and doing all that, where you're taking the time and being aggressive in making sure that you have all the right, documentation and contracts and all these different things. It's really difficult to be playing against another team that isn't necessarily playing by the rules.
It is tough. And, what I struggle with is, I don't want to be a bitter person or be I don't have a lot of enemies in this business or anything like that, but it's hurtful really based on the amount of work that we all put into this, and how hard, we work to not only find good people to work for us, but keep good people working for us, to watch jobs that we are good fits for us, that we probably should win, and we don't win as a result of just money, and it's like money.
I think that's the biggest thing though. I think if you're hiring and you're trying to find the best candidate for this job, I don't think that the best candidate is going to want to be an independent contractor.
No, I think you're right.
You're going to get the person that's going to bust their ass, and they're going to be here every day.
Yeah.
Like they don't mess around. They're there at this time every day. They want to learn. They want to do training. They have no problem working weekends. They're a team player. I think that's an employee. I think that person wants to get paid and move up the ranks, and they want insurance benefits, a truck. They want all those things. And I'm sure you guys have been a very attractive business to, some of the best technicians that, are out there in your city.
Yeah, I think I told you the other day on the phone, like our repair, tech that we hired, that we absolutely had to have. Like when he came in, when we were talking about 1099, he was like, I am absolutely no way ever signing with you as a 1099. He's like, I spent the last 10 years paying taxes on some issue where I work 1099. I'm never ever doing that again.
We should get him on the podcast.
Yeah,
Right.
But that just proves your point. Like that's
a great experience and a great story, because I worked for a couple companies before I started my own, and I think that's probably why I never had the 1099 issue, because I was the 1099 issue. I was an employee. I ran the service department. I ran the retail side of this company. I was a company guy. I was an employee. But when I got my first 1099 and owed Uncle Sam $10,000 and I had $0, that's an experience you don't ever forget. I paid that off for years to the government. And once I was squared up, I will never do that again. It was and the person who was employing me at that time, no help. He wasn't willing to. I was a kid. I was 20 years old. And he was just not willing to
big
help.
problem, when you're hiring these, if they don't know any difference, they think they're an employee, and they have no idea that they're supposed to hold that money for taxes. Even if you tell them, they don't know what that means.
Yeah, but they also know the difference. So when you leave the water on,
Yeah.
at a 1099, and like, hey, here's your check for $1,000 minus 400 because Mrs. Smith's water bill. That happened to me.
There's another side of it.
You're not doing that to the employees.
Yeah.
Right.
You understand real quick.
That's
huh?
not. Yeah, it's not going to happen. So you left the water on. I paid the 400. All right, so don't do that again. If it's an employee, but 1099, you're taxing them.
Right.
So
Well, Tanner, you bring up a good point about attracting employees, because right now in this economy, it is really difficult getting people, let alone good people. So just to pick on Dustin for a second, let's say we both are running ads for an employee, and my ad says, hey, you get a company truck, these are your wages, your Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and company phone, and we offer this and that, and we list our stuff. And Dustin's ad reads, hey, looking for a pool tech, must have his own truck, must have his own insurance, and basically you're responsible for all your stuff. It's like, what new person coming in the industry is going to find that attractive? It's like, if you think about a young kid, he's got a brand new truck, let's say, it's like, I'm going to beat my truck up, really? Like, so if you look at it from that standpoint, there's a lot of benefits to just doing things the right way, because you're attracting the best of the best technicians. And again, there's a cost to it. But, if you look at it from that standpoint, what person would want to gravitate towards Dustin's deal?
Can I say who? Yeah, because I wanted, I just want to highlight that there are a lot of people who are attracted to it, and this is absolutely, to me, this is not what if I was out there, I would want your job. The guys that want the other job are the guys whose typically significant other has they're usually a dual income house, so maybe wife has a job with great health benefits. All they're looking to do is to bring home a sizable amount of cash that they can contribute to the household bills, and the other goes under the mattress. These people have their whole life is financed on their wife's name. There are a lot of them, and a lot of them are a little bit on the, maybe been in the industry for a long time. And it's like, I've had so many job interviews where it's like, hey man, as long as I make $200 a day, we're good, and it's like, I'm looking for a company person, somebody that wants to be here for the long haul, but there are a ton of guys, and I really feel strongly about it's not my job as an employer to like coach a person about, hey, this is what's best for your life. But if you don't have a bank account that you can put a check in that you get paid, if a pay stub means nothing to you, you're willing to take an envelope full of cash, like, I don't know, every time I see you or something like that, like, that's not good for our industry, for our state, for the economy. It's a bad deal overall. And so people who are paying guys like that are maybe it's good for their business because, owners tucking it in their pocket a lot more money than I am, but it's just a bad deal. And unfortunately, when I run ads for guys, I get a good mix of inexperienced guys, which we like because we can kind of, let them know what we're offering for a full-time job. We're looking for somebody who is going to stick with us for a long time. And then I get a lot of calls from guys that are, hey, I've been doing this for 20 years. I know the gig, man. How much per pool, and how much cash can I put in my pocket? And the paperwork and the employee handbook and all that is something that they're not interested in. And truthfully, that's what's wrong with our business.
Right.
Yeah.
Well said.
I think too, if you want to touch on like, not being able to buy a house and stuff we talked about.
Oh yeah,
that's a big piece of it too.
Yeah, and that's just from my perspective, just because I had the experience with it before. Like when you talk about I just explained, especially when they're younger folks that are just getting into the workforce, it's like you'll never be able to fill out a loan application to have a vehicle or a home financed to you if you are a cash 1099 guy. Because, truthfully, and it's just my opinion, like I said, I don't know everybody's business, but if you're making $50,000 a year on a 1099, chances are you have a whole stack of write-offs that are not legal, and you are telling the government that you made about $500 that year, and you're putting the rest of the money away, and you're cheating the government, and it's none of my business, but it is going to bite you one day when you want to buy something. And as a normal adult that wants to have a life and a family and stuff like that, you need bank to loan you money sometimes. And without a proper paycheck and, proper taxes paid and all that, it's not what it used to be. You have to have that in line for somebody to loan you a significant amount of money. So I just try to tell them, unless you're some, trust fund person that has a ton of money that you don't need, this is just a gig or whatever. I just think it's very beneficial to look at the long run. Even if you don't want to be with my company for longer than a few years, maybe it is a stepping stone and you're just being honest about that. Make it legitimate, get a paycheck, and don't be a 1099.
Well, and take it another step further. It's like part of those payroll taxes go to people's Social Security and their disability and their unemployment. So if they ever find themselves without a job, and you've always had a job where you've had pay stubs, and you go to file unemployment, you're entitled to that. That's what you've been paying into. But when you show up to the unemployment office, you can't show proof that you've even existed, then you're not going to get those benefits that you're entitled to. Right now, this coronavirus thing's going on. Like, this is just hot out. Like by the time this comes out, the president just made that big announcement last night, and Governor of California made a big announcement today telling people not to congregate. And so I start thinking about, okay, look at all these people that work for restaurants and the convention center and all these. When they are told there's no work for 6 months, what are they going to do? They're going to go right to the unemployment office, and if they can document that they've been employed and been paying into the system, then they're entitled to that. And we, as employers, also contribute to that. And yes, they are entitled. If something shuts my business down because of all the stuff going on, all my guys, I can look and say, go get unemployment. Go right now.
Sure.
They deserve it. It's their money. They paid it. They may not see that money. They didn't write the check, but it came out of their check. They deserve that money.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Our passion to seek pool industry knowledge and being able to share that knowledge with you is the reason we started Pool Chasers. Turns out Pentair has several ways for you to gain knowledge as well. Take, for example, the Pentair Master Service Program. This is a program designed to recognize dealers, service technicians, and other pool professionals for completing desired training modules. It gives you the tools you can use to troubleshoot Pentair installations in the field and become a master of Pentair product knowledge. Be rewarded for educational activities designed to enhance your Pentair knowledge as you move through the certification levels. With 3 levels to work through, becoming a certified Pentair professional has never been easier. It's training that rewards you and your business. But the real value comes from building your confidence in the field to ensure the customer loyalty you need to keep your business growing. We encourage you to check this out, so to become a certified Pentair professional today, visit pentairpartners.com or click the link in the write-up below. So let's talk about this AB5 law just for a little bit. I know there's been a lot of discussion about it, and it can go very deep and down a bunch of rabbit holes. I don't want to do that, but I want to touch on it so we can kind of see what kind of has changed. Also, I want to make sure that everybody understands we're trying to keep this like as positive as possible. We really want to try to help people understand what a 1099 is and how to fix that if you want to. So we're not trying to scare people away from this idea. It's really more about let's see where you're at and see what you want to do moving forward. So let's just jump into that real quick and kind of talk about why it came in place. Rich, you want to kind of just talk about Dynamex a little bit and how it's, gone into this AB5 law?
Yeah, so Dynamex came out April of 2018, and it was basically a trucking company that had some issues with their truck drivers and converting them into employees and independent contractor and all that stuff. So that was a big, warning shot to us as a company, and I think to us as an industry as well. Just recently, this year, 2020, January 1st, our state, California, implemented that as law. And then they took the Dynamex, which is a Dynamex, it's a company and it's a case, and they now converted that to AB5. And then they made ABC rule, so they really narrowed it down to basically try to give us a real clear, concise idea of what an independent contractor is and what an employee is. And they've done a pretty good job. So in our industry, we do pool service. So, of A, B, C, the middle part, B, is really one sentence, and it's really easily defined. If you just put it in the word pool and pool service, and that it just simply says, if you're a pool service company and you hire people to do pool service, then that person is an employee. Simple. And all of A, B, and C have to be met. So if you can't meet one of them, the other two don't matter. So B, the middle of it, is really the simplest thing. So pretty much anybody listening right now is probably in our industry and does perform pool service. So if you hire somebody to do that, the state of California is letting you know that person's an employee. If you're not in the state of California, congratulations. But it will also be just a matter of a year, 2 or 3, most likely, before you will all be Californians. no matter what state you do business in, and it will be most likely a federal law. If you ask different people, you get different opinions on if that's going to happen or not. But, our state has multiple issues that are kind of, at the surface and under the surface with, budgeting and everything else. And one of them is homelessness, and they can't figure that out. Small businesses have always been that source of revenue and taxes. And I think that they really want to make that known that we're going to now address this big issue. It's a social issue. It's something that everybody in California deals with and sees on a daily basis. So if the homeless problem's still here, which it is, and that's not going away, this isn't going away. And it's affecting a lot of industries, not just the pool industry. There's a lot of talk about exemptions. If you qualify for that, there is a very lengthy 70-plus questionnaire that EDD puts out to see if you will meet those qualifications to become exempt. Most people won't. But so it's kind of doom and gloom, but it's one of these things that it is what it is. And it's part of our life. It's part of, the state we live in. And it's part of what we need to do as far as being in business. And, ultimately what that's going to do is it's going to increase costs. And in my business, my personal business and our business model, if we have increased costs, we're going to have to increase, revenue. And we're going to do that either by working more or we're going to be, increasing our pricing. So it's just an adjustment, and we figure that out, and everybody else is going to have to figure it out as well. And I think ultimately what that's going to do, it's going to be a leveling playing field eventually, and I think it's going to make more people work together. And we've talked about other industries. You guys have been real big proponents of the HVAC industry and the models that they've adopted for the just how they bid and what they charge and how they run stuff and the image of it, and the pool service industry mainly becoming more like that, which I definitely agree. It's like you ask any homeowner, you ask them, say, if your air conditioning doesn't work and you call anybody, what do you expect to pay? What do you expect to pay just to have somebody come out? And usually it's $150 to $200. So, and that's what I would expect. If something's not working, just come out and look at it and let's get it working. So, but when, we have to go out and look at a pump or a heater or something like that, it's like, well, why would you charge me for that? I mean, isn't that free? I mean, don't you do free estimates? So there's a disconnect between the homeowner's perceived value, a lack of perceived value for what we do. And again, that's really kind of on us. We've created that over decades of, pinning each other against each other, lowballing each other, and really not innovating. You get a homeowner that takes three of us, and if we're asking, well, Javier's price is this and Dustin's price is this, well, you know what? I'll do it for less. The homeowner can just like, wow, this is incredible. Let me think about that. And go back to these two guys and say, well, hey, Rich over here is offering that. Well, you know what? I can do it better. Which means I can do it cheaper. So, like I said, I've been in this for 29 years, almost 3 decades, and that's never not been that's almost been the standard. So that's a huge, huge thing in of itself. I also believe that because of that, that's why we are it's like a raw nerve for us, this AB5. It's just like, wow, man, this really, really sucks. This really is like going to be a game changer. I'm going to go out of business. I can't afford this anymore. It's because something hasn't happened all these years. And, and this is really, this podcast is really to just the big thing, if we could all agree here to help everybody listening is, hey, listen, you have 5 guys here at the table, and each one of us, it seems like, has had experience in having the 1099 guy go into a W-2 guy, or understanding that. And what we really want to do is really, really emphasize the help that's available to say, hey, we know where you're at. We've been there. And even if we haven't been exactly where you're at, hey, hang in there. It's a great industry. We all love it. We know you love it, and we can help you out. Yeah, and then that's the main thing, is to say, listen, the positive takeaway on all this is that there's something here. There's some light at the end of the tunnel. You can do it. And, if we're just honest, there's going to be really a for sure way of doing it. It's a thing that I guess we can't say, no one does say, but hey, you're going to have to raise pricing. That's just how it's going to come down to it. Yeah. It's not going to happen anyway. If you are raising your costs and those numbers are 30+% per whatever and per guy, or however you're gonna, look at it, you have to make that adjustment. I don't know why we can't talk about that, but it is what it is. So, and it's time. I mean, it is long overdue, and it is something that has needed to have happened many, many, many years, and this is where we're at.
Right, and I
Well
think
said.
that's very well said. You don't want to be the last one on the bus. This is a really strong warning about, and don't be naive that distribution centers, we were talking about this last night, that they can't, nobody cares. Don't be naive to think that people care that much about your business like the state of California. If you walk into distribution and they're like, oh, we need this new certificate that says that you have this many employees and da-da-da, like, what? I'm not saying that is a thing or it's even going to happen, but don't think that you can't wake up one day and the landscape has totally changed. And where do you want to be when that happens? Because when you're like, oh, I didn't know, or da-da-da-da, like, it's like, oh, that's too bad.
That's never worked for anybody in
I
the
didn't know
history.
is not a good,
that's
when you're
never-
doing 20, 30 miles an hour over and you've been drinking and all that, and the cop pulls you over and you say, I didn't know I couldn't do that. Oh, that's nice. Well, you're about to figure it out.
It's an expensive lesson to learn.
You
Set
don't
of
even,
matching bracelets.
Yeah, exactly.
And it doesn't have to be such a, I just, from a perspective of because it's it's kind of doom and gloom. It's kind of negative. Everybody's worried about, this is how it's going to affect my business. Well, the state of California is not asking you. This is the law. You have to do it. If you don't do it, there are penalties that you may have to pay. I'm not saying there are a lot of pool police out there that are going to bust you, but somebody will be made an example of. I'm sure it's already happened plenty of times. But the positive way to think about it is we all have to do it. So everybody should just jump on board. And like you said, it's long overdue. We deserve more money. We need to stop being pool boys and become pool professionals, pool operators, and we deserve more money, and we deserve to be able to charge more to offset that overall. It's a lot more money. You're right. I mean, 30% is not far off. I think it's obviously a little different based on every different company, but it is going to cost us more to do business. Therefore, we will be charging more to do business, and we should be held to a higher standard. So it could be a positive thing for everybody, but it takes all of us, or a majority of this business that is on the other side, to start shifting over. And there are tons of resources, and I think all three of us have always been, I'm an open book. You can call me. I don't care if we've never met before. I'm glad to have a conversation with you anytime about whatever I know. If I can give you any information that helps you in any way, I would love to give it to you, because not only it's a nice thing to do, but if you come correct, it helps all of our businesses. So,
Well, if you think about it, like when AB5 came out, there's a lot of people crapping their pants. Okay, but I don't think any one of us here were crapping our pants. So yeah, we've been doing this the whole time. Like, it doesn't really change how we do business. It's just another day at the office. But what's cool about it is that the benefits of it, again, trying to be positive here, is that if it does raise the level of the industry, and mainly with pricing, because we've all been undercut severely by competitors, and which is why sometimes we may tend to have a chip on our shoulder about this, because man, we know what it takes to run our business, and we try to price ourselves accordingly, but the market is constantly dragging you down. And so we've always maintained that struggle, and we've always fought that fight. But then now AB5 comes out. Well, like I said, it doesn't affect us. But the cool part from our perspective is now it affects everybody else. Now the playing field has to level. And when it does that, then now we're in a fair competitive environment. And then that way, if we lose a bid, hey, the guy was better than I was. That was it. It's not like I got undercut 40%.
But everybody's going to raise their prices. Once you go through and you make your team employees, you see right away, like, dude, 120 is not cutting it. Yeah. We need to raise our prices. And then it's like the playing field really is level, because now you're starting to see that I have to treat my team a certain way. I have to have office, warehouse. I'm going out on retreats. I'm taking this whole entire team to Long Beach to go through all these classes. I'm putting them up in hotels. That's not all cheap. Your customers are the ones paying for that stuff. And the way that you're going to be able to relay that message to how much, your services cost is you're thinking about all the things that make this business what it is and how it's running. And yeah, you're going to come in much higher. And you're totally right. We deserve a lot more money than we're being paid right now, because the responsibility is extremely high in being a pool service company.
Yeah, and I think to your point about like the customers don't understand that's the big piece of it, is to start educating the customers. We talk about that all the time, but like when you start to raise your prices, explaining that to the customer why you're doing that and why this industry is getting better, and explaining to them we have to do this increase, but doing it correctly and educating the customer on why that's happening. Because people that go in the backyard, do a bid, throw a price out, they don't understand what this is. That's why they look at us like that. Oh, you can come and do a bid in 2 seconds? Yeah, 120. Go, we're done. Like that's the part that's hard, because none of that is getting explained to them. So that's their only experience maybe with a pool person, is they came in, we're here for 2 minutes, told me 120, and that's it.
And don't think they're stupid. I mean, people that own pools are upper middle class, upper class. They probably own businesses or they work for a big company. Believe me, if you own a pool, for the most part, there's not too many things that you're going to say to them that they don't understand. If they heard what we just talked about, like, my team of 10, they're all employees, and we got to pay for uniforms. They get washed and they get, uniforms every week. Like all these different things that go into. I'm not saying you have to break it down in being that detailed, but even down to the insurance and all the training that they have to go through. Like, I get it. I'm a higher up at Sprouts or Best Buy or whatever. It's like, I totally understand all of that. But if you don't have any of that, you don't have much of a leg to stand on.
I mean, that's your piece, right?
Right.
That's why you're allowed to charge.
It all goes back to the quality. I mean, are you going to deliver that quality? And if you're going to deliver that quality, you better have everything behind it backing that up. And you can't fake that. That will come out. If you're not of quality, that will come out. If you're of quality, that will also come out. And people can sniff that out. It's an amazing thing. They can sniff it out. So when you present that up front with everything you do for what you charge, it's basically, I've had people tell me, way back when I wouldn't do things right or do things differently like everybody else, people would say, you know what, I'll get back to you. Or they'd say, yeah, I'll think about it. If people don't take what I have to offer now, they'll say, I can't afford that. And that's something psychologically that none of us ever want to say. I can't afford it. What we always say is, I'll think about it. You take that test drive on that, Mercedes, because it feels good. And then I'll think about it. But when you show quality and it's to be respected, people will respect you back and say, you know what, I just can't afford it. Maybe there's a way to make them afford, but if they can't, they can't. So, if I'm going out on a bid, I love it when people say yes, but if people are going to say no, I want to know faster than yes, because time's money, and my time's valuable, their time's valuable, and I want to get in and get out like anybody else. But on a no, I don't want to call them back 16 times and drive by their neighborhood, knock on their door, send them an email and, hey man, I'm still thinking about you and this and that. Sure. Now, if we're not, we're not. And if we are, we are. Let's do it. But in that quality, all those different caveats, they all go part of that. They're all hand in hand with that. And having all these different layers of protection and positioning yourself and having the leverage on your side for once, and not being leveraged by the homeowner, not being leveraged by the guy who's doing the work for you. It's all part of that. And at the end of the day, when you come home and you're at your home and you have everything lined up and you're doing your damnedest and it's your best, there's something about that. Right. But when you have all these different worries and they're all coming at you from any angle, and then life just happens. I mean, and we all have, these tremendous stories, but, the biggest, fears of somebody owning a business that has people working for them is an auto accident, dog bite, electrocution, falling in a pool. I mean, all these things, those things happen. When they do, if you're covered, it's like, okay, it happened. Now I know what to do. I know the system. I know the policy. I know how to go through that. Instead of going around it, under it, or over it, I'm just going to go through it. Because on the other side, when I get on the other side, I'm back to square one. I'm back to business. But you have to have those protections. You have to have, it's your business. You have to be leveraged.
One of the things we've always done in the last probably 10 years or so is we developed this checklist. So when we would go on a bid to do a new pool service, the first thing we have to do, because we know now we're not the highest guys in town, and I know that, but we're also not going to be the cheapest. In order for us to employ quality people, we have to pay them well, and that's just all there is to it. That's just simple math. When we go into a bid situation, I've always felt the first thing I got to do is separate myself from the mental model of what people think a pool guy is, with the guy in the flip-flops and that type of stuff. And so we have a checklist that says, our guys are employees. We have a contractor's license. We've been in business since 1987. And we go down, we tell them at the end, hey, look, if you can find somebody that you like better or is less money, as long as, they're on par, then you're getting a great deal. But if they can't check off that they have a license or that they've been around for any length of time, or they're part of a, IPSA or UPA or some trade association or Better Business Bureau, that type of, they can't box for box match what we have, then you're probably not getting the deal you think you're getting, because you have to give something up. Well, if the guy doesn't have a license, his costs are different. He doesn't have to pay that fee every couple of years and maintain a bond and all this, so he can lower his price. He doesn't pay workman's comp on his guys, so his costs are already lower. So back to the consumer, who's, we're assuming is intelligent. If they got a pool, they're most likely have some level of success and intelligence. For now, you've painted doubt in their mind, so that when the next guy comes along and he's $100 and we're 130 or whatever, then now you've got doubt. Like, what does that extra $30 get in me, or 40 or whatever the case?
Can I offer something that just on this, it's almost off subject, but I think that it's valuable to say. There is absolutely nothing wrong with being a sole proprietor, independent pool person. You do not have to have employees to make a good living in this business. In fact, some people that I know, people that are close friends with me, operate as independent operators, 50 extremely quality pools. They do a killer job, and they eliminate a lot of this conversation. I get it. This is heavy. It's not for everyone. You may not be interested in the slightest to get involved with any of this. That's okay. Sell the extra pools that you don't, contact a broker, get rid of those pools, get rid of the 1099s, keep the best ones for yourself, and run a killer business and be a part of a killer industry. This is a great industry to be in, and there's plenty of room for independent operators. Being an employer is not for everybody. In fact, it's probably not for most. And I think we can all tell stories all day long about stuff that having employees has taking years off my life, and there's so much stress involved in it, and it is not fun every day. There are a lot of great things about it too, but if you're listening to this or you're reading up on AB5 and you're thinking this is just BS, I am not going to do this, consider just being an independent pool person. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no shame. That doesn't make you not as good as us three or the other guys running big businesses. In fact, it might make you better, because I know some guys that make a whole heck of a lot more money than I do with one truck, one guy. They depend on themselves. They don't have to deal with all of this. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that is perfectly fine in this business. And we are not talking to you. If that is you out there doing that, good for you. Keep doing what you're doing. You're not in our way. We want you to obviously charge the right amount and do quality work for our industry, but you're not the problem. And in fact, I think a lot of people maybe that are struggling with this, that have these 1099s, and if they feel like, hey, I want to sleep better at night, but I'm not interested in getting involved in the business side of this, that's a solid option to consider. Those pools still bring a lot of money to sell them.
Yeah, and to
awesome.
add to that, in the state of California, you do not need a contractor's license to clean pools. And I think the threshold was still $500. Is that the threshold still?
Yeah, it's $600 now.
You can do a job under $600, no license, no problem. But the minute you hire a guy, or the minute you are doing jobs that are over $600, then the rules change. So, and again, I know a lot of pool service guys that are great people. They run great businesses. They're living great lives, and they do their own thing. And, a lot of times people ask, hey, I'm thinking of hiring my first employee. What do you think of? Why would you want to do that? You're in the bubble right now, man. You're in the high profit margin zone, Why do you want to add more headaches and to your life, So yeah, I'll definitely be, the first to jump on that. This is a great business, and you can make a great living just as an independent guy.
But at least that allows you to, if you someday want employees, that allows you to have a little bit more time to figure it out. If you sold off some of those pools and you're doing it by yourself, and maybe you aspire to have a company one day that's got more employees, at least you're doing things responsibly, and you're taking the time to earn a little extra money, so that when you hire maybe an office manager or a repair person, that you're able to do it the right way. I think that's really good.
Take that money and pay off some of the debt that you built up building the business. I mean, that's just what we do. We build up debt when we're trying to build this business, whether or not it's trucks, equipment, whatever it is, credit cards. Pay it all off. start over again. I mean, we all know guys that have done this for years where you got 40 pools, you're bursting at the seams at 60, you sell off the 20 that you just don't fit into your route, you pocket the extra outside of the debt you paid off, and they have great lives that, a lot of days I'm jealous of that, and I'm always open about it that, hey, having employees is not always fun, and it takes many years and a lot of practice to get good guys. I guarantee no one starts and hires 5 excellent, great technicians. You go through bad guys, you get your bumps and bruises, and you keep moving on. But this is not for everyone. So don't feel like if you're running a business right now and this sounds overwhelming and you're reading this, that you are a failure in any way. You can still be a very positive contributing member of this industry, and we all respect you for it. All we're asking is that if you do decide to have employees, have them do it right. Legally. Yeah. Do it right. Step up.
That's the honorable thing to do. We should all be thinking long term for our business.
Yeah.
And again, we didn't all start that way.
No.
So it's not like we're saying tomorrow you go out and do it.
No.
It's something you have to work at and you have to build up to getting to that point.
Yeah. Tomorrow,
and is it hard?
Tomorrow, just take the first step
to make the move. It's
very
hard.
hard.
It's so hard.
I think that's the thing that there's nothing special about any of this. It's gonna be difficult, and it is hard, and there is sacrifices you have to make. But if you signed up to be an entrepreneur or be a business owner, that's exactly what comes with it. There's no magic pill. There's hard work.
Yeah. No successful business owner will ever tell
you. You're lucky right
easy.
now. You got Pool Chasers podcast. That's about as close as you're going to get to, the magic pill.
That's right.
Because this, inspires you. This isn't everything, but inspires you to go down the rabbit hole of hopefully a lot of people are going to be clicking some links and going and filling out some paperwork and trying to get this moving.
Well, also too, just to jump back on Dustin's comment, you have to decide what you want to do, and whatever you do, just do that well. And being an employer is not for everybody. And I was talking to someone, and I said, you know how many times I've wanted to quit since I started this business? And like 5 times? No, like 200 times. Right? It's hard. It sucks. And when all the bills are paid and the phone's quiet and everything's handled, it's one of the greatest feelings. How many sleepless nights and going out in a truck on a weekend or late or whatever because it's your name on the door and you got to go handle things. And it is not for everybody. And sometimes I wonder even if it's for me. But, from my point of view, if this is what we're doing, we're going to do it right.
Right. Because once you do something right and you win big. And that's the biggest, best high that I love in being an entrepreneur is when you do something right, man, it makes you feel like $1 million and it just takes you to another level where you just want to keep going. And then when you've done it for so long, it's like you almost feel like you can't do anything different, but you definitely have to be smart about it.
Yeah, and when you crash and burn, and you also, you pick yourself back up and you learn a lot from it, that's also an amazing feeling, I mean, if you manage to crash and burn and not lose it all or hurt somebody or whatever, you learn so much from it. And if you're the right type of person that can learn from your mistakes, this business will put you through it. I promise. You will fail so many times trying to get something to work right. I fail and make mistakes every single day and try to preach to my team all the time. If you don't make mistakes, I'm worried about you. We all make mistakes, and all I ask is that you own them, help us fix them, and learn from them and move on. And that's just life. But in our business, I think it's really important to make peace with. Yeah,
I think you gotta love the process and love the learning, man. Love the losing. That sounds weird to say, but
it's part of it.
The losing hurts and really bad, but losing also, if you know how to learn from losing, it's one of the best freaking things you can do.
100%.
Because you're like, yep, that's never going to happen to me again, and it's never going to happen to that guy, So there's a big piece of it.
Sure.
I want to kind of just, can you read through those 3, the ABC real quick?
Sure.
I know you have it out. Just so that everybody kind of, we can move on from that topic, but just kind of what those 3 ABC.
Yeah. So, the way that this came from the California Small Business Association. And I think that we all agree this is how it was worded. And this is, to me, a little hard, but like Rich said, that's the second one that really applies to our business. But A is the worker is free from the control and direction of the hiring entity in connection with the performance of the work, both under the contract for the performance of the work and in fact. B is the worker performs work that is outside of the usual course of the hiring entity's business. C is the worker is customarily engaged in an independently established trade, occupation, or business of the same nature as that involved in the work performed. B is, the worker performs work that is outside the usual course of the hired entity's business. So if you're a pool service company, 1099 pool service technicians, you're done. They're employees. They are not 1099s. And I think that is 90% of this conversation.
It's pretty clear.
It's pretty clear. I mean,
one of the things that I don't agree with that part of it, like, for example, Dustin's a licensed contractor and I'm a licensed contractor. We talked about contracting earlier. If you're going to contract, we can contract with each other. The problem I have with that is if I clean pools and Dustin clean pools, we both have our own businesses and have our own licenses. If I hire him to clean 5 pools, for those 5 pools, he's my employee, which, there's not a lot of thought put into that, but that kind of really makes things kind of jacked up, because here we're doing everything to comply, but that law changes everything. Now, if Dustin is a leak detection guy and I don't do that and I hire him to do that, and he's a contractor and I'm a contractor, we're all good, because he's not doing directly what I do.
So, and I've kind of slowly started making peace with this, because what I used to struggle with was, as we build routes in this business, typically the way it works is, you get one employee. You work everyone until they're bursting at the seams and getting ready to quit on you. And then you take the step to hire the next employee. And that's actually 2 steps backwards, because you lost a ton of profit because now you're paying the next guy. His route is very light because you just don't have enough pools for everybody. So you give some of your away, you take employee one's pools away, you give it to them. What is okay in this business is to hire part-time employees. Just because you're going to work for me and do 15 pools, why can't you be an employee? You'll get a paycheck like everybody else. It's going to be a lot smaller. You're going to get a pay stub, but it's legal. You can be a part-time employee. I don't care if you have another job. I don't care if you work for other pool service companies, but if you come and do pools for me, you're an employee, and I'm going to pay you like an employee. I'm going to treat you like an employee. That's okay. I used to kind of think that if you're going to commit to having an employee, you need to offer a career package to somebody. I think that it's okay to say, hey, I just have 15 pools a week that I need done. Let's make a deal. We'll figure out what it is, but you're going to fill out the proper paperwork. You're going to be held to the same standards that I hold all of my full-time employees to. And when you're on my clock, you work for me. You can't be doing other pools in between my pools. It's okay to work for me only Mondays and Tuesdays. A part-time job's okay. There's no problem with that.
I agree with Dustin over here as far as it's a good idea that if you only have a day or 2 of work to hire somebody and say, yeah, you're going to be part-time. I've always thought that I didn't want this guy working for other pool guys, and I still don't want him. Me personally,
it's not ideal. I don't either.
Yeah.
But
So what we've done the last 2-3 years that's really, really, really worked for us is we've actually hired recruits from staffing agencies. They used to be called temp agencies, and they're called staffing agencies. And there's a lot more of them that are labor jobs, for day laborers or work in a warehouse type thing. So, but guys basically that just want to work and want to work with their bodies, and their hands. So we've done our last 2 hires have been from the staffing agencies. And what that's really done is that company, as a third party, we have pay them the hourly rate for that guy, but they cover all the payroll tax. They cover all the workman's comp, which is really nice because everything on that level is on them, and that is their employer. And I'm just a customer of that staffing agency. So if there is any type of issue where, hey, at the end of the day, it's not going to work out, when I signed that contract, it says it right in there that all I got to do at 5 o'clock is call and say the contract is terminated, and that guy does not show up tomorrow. End of story. So a lot of different other issues that go hand in hand with, hiring and firing people. That's a real nice, way through that one. And you're going to pay a little bit more of a premium per hour on that. But for me, it's been well worth it.
I like that.
Sounds like it.
I like that.
You can buy them out then too, right? After
Oh yeah, there's different. There's whole contracts. If you get a guy that's really, really good. So my contracts always been you have to do a minimum of 720 hours. That's the magic number, I guess, which is usually 3 to 4 months. And once you do that, then you can basically hire him as a full time. But if you got a guy that you really like, after the first week or 2, You can buy them out. There's buyout clauses, and sometimes they're 2,000 or 3,000, sometimes they're 5,000 or 10,000, depending on the guy. And they use that as a little tactic to basically, like, because he's not your employees, they're employees. So if, he's working for you, they have the right to say, well, he's going to go work for this warehouse this next week. They don't want to really do that. But the last guy we got was really, really, it's like the Derek Jeter of pool guys, and I knew this going into it, and they told me that, and I'm like, man, And so I paid a premium per hour, and there was an extremely high buyout on them. And I said, no, I'll hold out. And there's the guy before that, we kept him on for an additional 6 months before we brought him in, just because it worked out that way where, you know what, at this point right now, for my own personal reasons, with the company reasons, I want to have that guy right where I want him and need him as far as their liability insurance and workman's comp, and, do what I need to do on my end. But it's a really good option and a really good tool, and it is not that much more expensive than doing it on your own.
Right.
I like that. That's a
I don't
good
know
option.
why. I just picture this guy like at a signing table, like when the baseball team sign like a big player. They're signing on the pool guy, and he's just got like a suit on. He's signing
That's
on
so
the dotted
Oh
line.
no, it was almost exactly like that.
He's got the nice suit on with the big old Pure Swim shirt
Right.
over.
Oh
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Likes the
I'm
Pure
happy to
Swim
be
hat.
here. Pure Swim.
That's so
This guy's 6'1", he's 24 years old. I'm looking at him, I'm like, all right, this guy's gonna work out real good. They're looking at me like, yeah, we know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so what's that buyout? I'm like, whoa, really? Oh man, I'll take him to term. And they're like, well, we have him over here, and he's liking this job, and this company's liking him. Wasn't in a pool company. It's just, I'm like, nah, I get it. We're good. We're good.
Yeah.
So it turns out that it was, for the last 2 hirees we had, it was a really, really good fit. And there's things out there. I mean, another whole thing about this AB5 is you're going to deal with the cost of payroll tax, and you're going to deal with the cost of workman's comp. There's so much more you're going to deal with. If you've never done payroll before, and you've never, just 1099, and you got the accountant or CPA handling at the end of the year, now you're going into payroll. You're doing this every 2 weeks. This is all new to you. You know automatically that's going to be a thing. So there's other costs that are involved with that. So this other way of using these staffing agencies and having it all done, it's a nice way to transition. And the timekeeping and time cards and all that, there's a bunch of legalities just on that. Meal breaks, they will do all that. They're responsible for all of that. Any type of and all regulations, state and federal, they are on that. So it is a nice way to have out there as an option to do it. And they actually offer this. A couple of them, they'll take your current guys working for you and convert them to their employees and send them back to you. It's an interesting concept, but if you just don't want to deal with any of the extra cost, or not the cost, but the actual figuring it all out and get tied up in that, and that's been a big reason why you haven't done this, because it definitely was for me back in the day. I just didn't want to do something wrong. I didn't want to step left when I need to step right. Now there's a resource there that will do all that for you. You'll pay for that, but it just completely removes you from all that.
I think that's good to, what you talked about, the payroll part of it and all that too, because I think that's one of the big challenges for people is it's intimidating. It's a lot. You maybe have everything going for you where you go, I want to be an employer. I want to have employees. I just don't know anything about this. And Javier has talked, been said from the very beginning, he made the decision, got a payroll company right off the bat. It's not, you got to pay for it. It's not free. No one's going to offer to do this for you for free. That's a great option. That's a killer option. Like for me, I'm like my wife runs that side of our business. She's super smart in accounting and takes care of all of that. And I'm really lucky for that. But I just think that people need to understand that if you are going to jump in to do this and you are content with doing it the right way, spend the money to get the support that you need. Do the research on how much that costs up front so that you're not so surprised, because when you don't pay your payroll taxes, I'll tell you right now, they're going to get that money. Promise you they'll get that money. And it's not, if you decide not to give it to them, they'll come and take it. Sure. So, you just have to, it's not your option. If you're going to be on the radar, play by the rules. Staffing agency is fine. Get a smart wife. Get a, whatever you want to do. I don't care what you do, but do it, because they will not let it slide. It's like child support. They're going to get it.
We hired a payroll company right off the bat too when we started doing employees. It's a really good thing to do. I mean, it costs you an extra, whatever it is, $600 a time or whatever, but it's so much better than paying $20,000 down the road,
Yeah, it's actually a really good value because then now that's not a person you have to hire,
Right.
To fulfill that role. They take all the responsibility and they do all your filings for you. So you just basically report your hours and
Well worth
pay
the money
rate.
to me.
Yeah,
And I bet your payroll company doesn't yell at you when you don't do the
No,
right
they
thing either,
don't.
because
Like your wife?
she'll break me down. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I have to answer to her. She's the boss when it comes to that. But I'm happy to have her on the job.
Yeah,
so.
and it's interesting when I hired my first employee, you start getting all the requirements stuff that you have to do from the state of California. It's like, oh my God, this is like stacks and stacks of paperwork you have to do. And so it's not me. It's not what I'm going to do.
Sure.
So that's where a payroll company comes in real handy. And I think back in those days, I mean, it really, like for one employee, it's not a lot of money. It could be $50-$60 a month that you're paying,
Yeah. So I want to move on from that, but I think what you said about hiring part-time employees is really cool with this day and age of millennials, again, the word, but like there's people who are looking for that type of thing.
Yeah.
They want 2-3 jobs. They want to be able to bounce between when they do go hiking, go on trips, go on vacations, do all this. They want these small, tiny houses now with no liability and no responsibility. So it's a cool way to do it too. But
Yeah, I have opportunities for part-time guys that are like unique positions, if you will, like not the standard. You're not running a route, but I've got something where you could work multiple other jobs and not be in anybody's way.
sure. As a pool pro, you know how much of a headache leaking pools can be for you and your customers. Anderson Manufacturing's goal is to help you turn those leak problems into profits. As the industry leak experts for over 30 years, Anderson is the best source for quality equipment and repair supplies. They also have the educational resources you need to be successful. By using the free materials on leaktools.com or attending hands-on training, you'll be finding leaks in no time. Plus, the people at Anderson are always available to offer helpful advice, whether that's talking you through a tough job or making equipment decisions. If leak detection sounds like the right opportunity for you, give Anderson a call at 1-800-348-1316 to get started with a custom equipment package or browse their complete line of leak detection and repair solutions at leaktools.com. If you choose to have someone else do your leak work, make sure that they're using Anderson equipment to get the job done right. As a special thank you to our listeners, they'll be adding a free set of LeakMaster products to your next order when you enter the code POOLCHASERS during checkout. Also, if you have not heard episode 87 yet, we suggest you go listen to it as we interview Lance and Brad of Anderson Manufacturing to discuss all things leak detection. So to find out more, click the link below. We've talked a lot about it really, but let's define kind of what an employee looks like. So what's the proper channel if you're going to hire somebody? What's the next steps? What makes them an employee?
When you start off with a guy, I guess going to the very beginning when you're recruiting or trying to get somebody, I think making sure that you have your ducks in a row when you have the conversation with somebody, especially if they are from the pool industry. Don't wait until you're negotiating a deal to let them know whether or not this is a 1099 position, or you need to be really clear about what you expect from somebody if you're going to ask them to join your team. I've learned in the past that sometimes you get excited. This guy might be a great fit. You really want him. You think, I'm going to pay whatever it takes to get this guy on the team. But maybe you guys they have different expectations or need different things in their life than you can offer. So you need to make sure you're very clear about that. But having your paperwork in a row, you can get all of this online. It sounds like it's a lot. It's not something that you have to have custom, but they need to fill out a job application. It needs to be, ours is very generic. It's not something but we keep it on file, and it shows that this person has applied to work for us. A handbook, company handbook. Ours has changed over the years. Every time something happens, somebody gets fired or quits, we end up adding a whole new paragraph about, maybe next time you shouldn't do this, and this, and it's like over the years, it grows, we get feedback from other people. So an employee handbook, I think is essential. You need to have that together so that you can always, we try to revisit it. I'd like to go back and say, okay, this is in the employee handbook. Like, hey, notice after you've been here for 3 or 4 months, all of a sudden the flip-flops are coming back. Like, what happened? You got comfortable? But you signed this employee handbook that said you understand what we expect from you. Same thing with like an employment agreement. It needs to be written out and spelled out. The compensation, the expectations for the job description, everything, paid vacation, all of these type of things. These are not things that should be done with a handshake, jotted down on a bar napkin. They should be done officially, signed upon. Everybody should get their own copies of them. this is not hard to come up with. It does not have to be super fancy. And as you get larger, become a bigger company, it's 100. Most guys would tell you they probably consulted with some kind of legal help to get it together in a way that's. But we don't have that at my company. We're not a huge company. We have 5 employees. It's not and it works for what we do. So.
But like invest in it one time. You got that checklist in the front of it, like we talked about with Golke Pools.
Yeah.
And it's like you put the time and effort into that first initial, like, how are we going to onboard a new person?
Yeah.
We're going to put it maybe in this Manila folder. We're going to put it online as well in the cloud. But you should have a checklist, if it's application, it's drug test, it's, background screening, whatever it is that you got to do. If it's 10, 15, 20 things, like, shit, if it's all on a checklist, like, who cares? It's just bang, bang.
It's a packet.
Bang.
It's easy.
Get it done.
Driver's license, we usually have a photo copy of their driver's license, social security card, how many dependents they have. And when you deal with a payroll company, and you can also download this type of stuff, this is the things you need, in order to put them on payroll. When you have a payroll company, they guide you to it. But, Dustin said, hey, we're just 5 guys. Hey, well, if you got 1 guy or 5 guys or 100 guys, it's pretty much the same thing. Well, actually, I think the life changes at 50 employees, but let's just say you got 39 employees or 10 employees or 5 or 1, you still have to comply with the same stuff. And, some of the things that you have to comply with, like the Family Leave Act, transgender rights, meal breaks, overtime, discrimination, harassments, you still have to comply to all those things. So those are just some notes I took off of the big posters that I never read when I walk by in our office. I was like, okay, what's on here? It's like, what?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah, for sure. But, like you said, if you have the checklist, you put the time and the effort into getting it together once, that's it. And then you just, especially if you have a payroll company and somebody can help keep you informed as the laws and regulations change, you don't have to feel like you're in such a mad dash, because I felt that way before, where the stars aligned and there was somebody on my radar I really wanted to hire, but I just didn't have everything put together. And the first impression as an employer, if you're getting after a superstar, you better have your stuff organized. And it's not just about the money you agree to pay that person. That person expects a certain level of professionalism from you as an employer. So do the work, put the time in, and get this all put together. Because, legally, we've got to make sure that you can work the U.S. You got to fill out I-9, you got to supply the IDs. Like you said, the tax paperwork is all really important. That's not the kind of stuff you say. We shake hands, you clean pools for 3 weeks, and then you say, oh, you know what? I've meant to ask you. I need you to fill this out. No.
Yeah.
Do the work first. That's the professional thing to do.
Those were some of the most embarrassing days back in the day when we had this idea that these meetings would be more organized when somebody applied for it, and it was just like, yeah, I could be over there in 30 minutes, and we didn't print out anything, and we're just kind of doing it, and they just leave, and we're just like, dude, that sucked. Like that was terrible, man. That was the most unorganized, especially when it was somebody good that might have just slipped through the cracks, because they're like, I think keep looking. I'm like, yeah. We
had a meeting at Culver's.
Yeah.
I've done it too.
Where's our meeting at? We're going to have a cigar in the back.
Yeah, dude.
Just,
it sucks. Yeah. It's so awkward.
Yeah. That didn't actually happen, but I'm just saying,
Not
like, there were some
part.
times where it was just very unorganized.
Culver's happened.
Yeah, that did.
I've done multiple job interviews at Chili's. It's kind of my hotspot.
Oh, yeah. Fancy.
Yeah. I interviewed the same guy twice at Chili's. Yeah, that's right, man.
He'll take a water. We'll see where this goes.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
No ice though.
Yeah.
That's right.
Don't know him yet.
That's right. But you learn from those situations. I think
Most
probably we
definitely.
all have had them. But that's the whole thing, is you want to be prepared when you have the opportunity to interview someone, whether or not it's a superstar or somebody that a diamond in the rough or whatever it is. You want to be prepared to, roll out the paperwork and the company image in a manner that is going to set the pace for the relationship moving forward.
Well, see, and as pool technicians, we're comfortable unraveling hoses and pools and muscling heaters and pumps in and out of equipment rooms, and payroll stuff or this. Even to me, that's not stuff I like doing. I hate doing it. It's tedious stuff, and just like somebody breaks something I can go fix really quick, because I don't want to deal with
boring.
It is. It's boring, but it's a necessary evil that you have to do. But also too, like, if you're not good at that, get someone that is good at that. Get a smart wife. Get somebody that can make, like a bookkeeper, that come in for a couple days a week and just help you out with that. So if you're onboarding somebody, hey, hand this off to the bookkeeper, she'll get all this stuff handled, or he or she or whatever. If that's not what you're good at, there's a lot of things, believe me, a lot of things I suck at, but and that's one of them, and so you just get smarter people than you to do it. And it doesn't have to be a full-time job. You can get people to do this part-time for you.
I think that's such an important thing, Javier, just in business overall. And I've been talking a lot about it lately because the older I get and the longer I've been in this business, I start identifying things that I'm just not good at. I've always been someone that has told everybody, I'm not a good pool cleaner. I never have been. I mean, my first pool cleaning job that I had to be the worst pool cleaner. I didn't get fired, but I probably should have been. But there are things that I am really good at. And so as I start getting further along, I start understanding, my team, guys who have been with me every year that goes by, like I'm at that point now where I go on jobs with guys and I realize you're better than me at this. Like you troubleshoot this heater or you install this automation panel. You're just better than me. So I need to get out of the way and I need to let you do what you're good at and I'll do what I'm good at. And the paperwork and the business side of it, I'm not very good at it. My wife's really good at it. I have guys on my team that are excellent pool cleaners. That's not for me. I'm really good at building up business, my contacts, the people that I know over the years, and just cultivating new business relationships for my company is what I'm good at. So I identify that as my strength. Pick a lane, stay in it, hire people, and get help in the areas you're not good at, because I guarantee, like that's the thing about our industry. We're electricians, we're plumbers, we're chemists. We do have so many different hats that we wear. Sometimes we're not good at all of them. So get the help from the people that are good at that, and that's how you build a strong team.
Most definitely.
What about you, Rich? What's an employee to you?
Everything. I mean, it's basically I listen to what you guys said. I do everything you said, and I appreciate you saying it because Javier over here told me just a year ago about the employee handbook, and he got me on that. And that's another great thing about being part of this podcast and being part of this industry at this particular moment in time. There's more and more of this networking and more of this, brotherhood and coming together and saying, hey, listen, I know we're competitors, but, we can share these items and share these, jewels. And again, it's going to help, what's helped me is going to help you, and it's going to help us together. And as an industry, we're going to grow. So, and I can't do any of that without employees. So they're everything. We all come from a certain starting point and growing, and it's been a long time. Again, 29 years is a long haul, and this doesn't happen overnight. And we just encourage you to take that first step. After listening to this, I think all three of us are definitely available to anybody out there. We're all approachable, and we're open books, and definitely would want to see like-minded people out there, raise up, do what we all need to do.
Yeah, I think if I lived in this area, are you guys in the IPSA group, right?
I'm not in IPSA anymore.
No, there's a PHTA group.
PHTA, yeah.
Well, whatever group it is and whatever the meetings look like, man, be the first to jump into that and just ask all the smart, dumb questions, whatever questions you have, like ask them all, hang back afterwards, and just be a part of it, and just
the networking part of that is so big, and that's like what we're doing.
Don't just depend on Facebook groups.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So I got to kind of put my actually we still call ourselves the APSB. PhD came out with the name change and with the merger there. And with us, we felt as a chapter, we're still a San Diego County Association of Pool and Spa Professionals. Now Dustin's on our board, and Rich is on our board, and Rich is up in LA County, but he comes down to our meetings, and really, we don't really have a compass like this is the playbook, here's how we're going to do it. We just know that we're living in a really, really cool time right now where there's a lot of really good guys. I consider these two gentlemen really good guys. You guys are really good guys. And for us to be able to pick the phone up and call each other is really cool. But on a more formal setting, it's like, look, what can we do to help the industry? So we formed this chapter, and really what we're trying to do is trying to have relevant topics that will draw a crowd. But more importantly, what we emphasize on is the networking. The networking is I mean, with all the stuff available, YouTube and stuff on the internet, there's nothing like talking to someone, face to face. And yeah, I've had that problem. Yeah, this is how I dealt with it. Or, hey, I don't know if you should be doing that, because these are some pitfalls that you at least should think about. But really, that's the big, I think one of the big driving components of what we're trying to do is just assemble the best guys that we know, and let's meet kind of on a formal basis, and let's try to make each other better.
Right. And it's all healthy competition. I think of like truck drivers, they work for different companies, but they might hop on that CB radio and they're looking out for each other because they're like, hey, there's something coming up ahead. I'm about 100 miles ahead of you, or 50 miles, or the storm's coming in, whatever it may be. Like, that's how we should be. We might be in the same state, same city, same area, but like, work together. And if they are your competitors, that's super healthy competition. If I was here, we would like to compete with guys like you.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna just, bring ourselves up all together.
Hey, but also do think about it. If you're new to the industry and, you're whatever age you are, whether you came to the industry later in life, but how cool is it to be able to hang out with like-minded people, and so Greg Garrett used to say, do you want to soar with eagles, or you want to, eat
crow.
Eat
Yeah.
roadkill with crows.
Roadkill,
Exactly.
I mean, the networking part of this, and you guys talked a lot about it when you were starting, was the, just the attitude at the counter at the wholesaler. You need help. You have questions, but it's intimidating to ask other people these questions. The pool industry has had a crap attitude for a long time, and so I think that's what we're doing with this. I mean, just what we're sitting here doing today, and with our APSP group. I mean, the network and the friendships and the just the amount of I'm starting to mentor some of these younger guys, and I'm meeting some of these guys that you may have heard their names. They've been in the industry for 40, 50 years. They paved the way for us, but I've never met them. But here they are coming to our meetings, sitting in the room. And Javier's done a great job of putting all that together. And I'm seeing a shift in this industry for the better. Everybody is becoming more friendly and a little more open. There are plenty of pools for everybody. In case anybody didn't know that, there are plenty of pools.
Get on an airplane.
Yeah, there are no
fly around.
There's
You'll see.
not a single pool out there that is going to make or break your business. So if you lose a pool or you gain a pool, that doesn't matter. It's your company as a whole is important, but you don't need to be so competitive to where you cannot be friendly and you cannot be part of a network with other people. And I encourage everybody that's getting started or that is interested in learning more about what we're talking about, make a friend, get tuck under somebody's wing that's already done it, and hopefully they're willing to share some information, because it's hard to get training in this business. I mean, we can all get water chemistry training, or we can learn how to install pumps or whatever, but this part of it's hard to come by. The easiest way is join a group, whether or not it's IPSA, APSB, whatever it is. Get involved with something, because I've learned so much from just being around all these guys, and it's a very small investment of your time. So I think that's important.
I think that's the best thing you can do, because everybody that's been on the show has been a part of some type of group. And we know when we were at the distribution picking up parts and things like that those were the most negative people, and learned right away that, dude, misery loves company. They don't want you to be successful. They don't want you to question things. They want you to do it this way that hasn't been thought out, and they want you to screw up just the way that they did. And I hope those people get better, but if that's not how you feel, like, dude, question everything and find a group that is meant for you, and don't just take. The worst thing I hate is that's just the way that it is. We can't make it better. That's just the way that it is. I hate that freaking sentence. It's like, nah, I don't believe that.
And you're
I'm gonna move on.
And you're not a hater.
No.
Yeah, I don't think I ever heard you say hate.
I'm not, but I truly don't like that, because it's like, don't do that to yourself. You're smarter than that. Move on.
It's the way it's always been.
Find new friends. Yeah, that's the way it's always been.
Right.
Like, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
That's not the way it is.
Yeah, find a new group, man. That's. I mean, you are as good as the people you surround yourself with. And this industry's been pretty cliquey. I've noticed as I've come up, and I just it's such a positive thing. I know we all, for years, it's always like we wave to each other, the pool guy wave, but everybody's secretly flipping each other off, or it's like, I saw this dude in my neighborhood, I know he's knocking on my doors. It's like, move on, man. It's just a bigger picture. You guys, we all need to contribute in a positive way, and ultimately, we're all going to make more money if we're just more positive and push each other a little bit. We all need some encouragement. I need it. Everybody needs it. So just be positive for the people, your competitors. The more positive you are about stuff, the more will come back to you. I promise you.
For sure. I just wanted to kind of touch base about what it looks like to, as the employer, to have employees. We don't have to dive deep into it, to kind of touch a little bit on it, but it gives you the control, over meetings, gives you control over when you want to have those meetings, when people show up. how many pulls they do. You can't control how many pulls they do if they're an independent contractor. You're not supposed to be like, if they want to do 10 pulls, they can do 10 pulls and bounce. You know what I mean? If you give them 15 and they want to do 10, they can do 10. This, when they're an employee, then you can tell them 15, this is your job, this is what you do, right? You get better quality, you get high retention, you have a stable environment, longevity. The employees then become part of a team with an established brand, as you talked about. There's protection for the employer and the employee that way. And then also, obviously, when someone gets hurt with a workman's comp. So there's a lot of benefits to it, that we've kind of touched here and there on, but those are some of them, and they're very good pieces. And like you said, at the end of the day, if you can go home and be okay with it and be happy, that's the feeling you want.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that stuff is so important. And maybe you are running a business where that stuff's not important to you, and I guess that's okay. But if you create a program and you create a company with an environment and a company culture that you're proud of, and that takes a lot of time, being able to kind of roll programs out amongst your team and expect them to jump on board and support you. I mean, my guys will take a bullet for me. My team is like, they are everything to me, and I would do the same, and they all know they get paid before I get paid. I'll sell every one of my vehicles. I'll sell everything I have to make sure that we clear payroll. There has been times where I've had to borrow money to make payroll. Those are the things that you have to make peace with as an employer. But having guys that are employees as opposed to independent contractors, the amount of control you have, which, I mean, I know it's kind of weird to think like, I have to have all this control. It's just that, somebody's got to be steering this ship, and you find when you have so many cooks in the kitchen, that's where things start getting a little bit weird. So, somebody makes certain programs and then the team jumps on board. We try them, and if they fail, then they give you feedback and we readjust, but when everybody's doing it their own way and you're just struggling to get anything to happen, it's a real crappy feeling. And I've been there before. So it's like, I think there's a lot of benefit to having a strong team.
Everybody wants to be a part of a team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the good people, right? Like they all want that feeling of, and people don't want to be the boss. I mean, lots of people don't want to be a boss.
Yeah.
But they do want to feel like they're part of something that matters.
Absolutely.
And you're giving them something that matters by employing them, because all the stuff we've already talked about, we don't reiterate it, but you're giving them a feeling of, I'm a part of something. I have something to live for. This is my team. This is what I do. If you're just some random guy that doesn't matter, sometimes that's the way it feels. If you're a 1099 guy, you don't matter.
Yeah.
Like you're just this dude cleaning pools. Yeah. And I know that feeling. I've seen that feeling in our guys. I mean, I've seen it like, yeah, these dudes don't care about me, and that sucks because we do. Like I cared about each one of them so much, but it's like, there's only so much you can do when they're not employees. It's like, I don't care. Like I'm going to the next guy. See you later. And that's tough because you do care about those dudes a lot.
Yeah.
But everybody, that's just human nature to want to be loved, to want to be a part of something, to want to be a part of a team that you're contributing to life. That's how you stay positive, and that's everybody wants that.
You got to treat them like warriors on the battlefield. Yeah. Like this is war. Every day we wake up, we're at war with ourselves. We're at war with the situations, all the the viruses going on. There's so many things going on, and when you do things like educate yourself through the podcast and the things that you're supposed to be doing, when it comes time to get out there on the battlefield and do what you got to do, like you're prepared and your leader has your back and all these different things. That's why the books that talk about war and how they get through all of that, so much of that is on, leadership and, all the things that we're talking about right now. Were you going to say, Javier?
Yeah, no, just scratching my chin here. I was pondering. That's actually pretty cool. And what I was going to also add is that you talked about being wanted, respected, love, that whole thing. All those things are more important than the rate of pay. I mean, it's in study after study when they ask people, what do you like most about your job? Pay is not number one. Now, yeah, it's important, and to have good people, you got to pay them well. But really, all those things that Tyler's talking about, those trump anything money related.
Most of them,
because all those things are
some dudes want money, but yeah, I agree.
No,
a lot of people are very.
It's important, but it's not the most important. Sure. If you're dealing with a guy that's the number one driving factor,
he's not your guy.
Yeah, he's not your guy.
No, I've learned that many times. That's the being a part of the team, and sometimes some of the best techs with the most talent just aren't the right people for your team. Doesn't make them bad people, but like you said, I mean, they may be really productive, but if they're a negative influence on the rest of your team, you need to evaluate that, because I just feel like every day, you know, when push comes to shove, I mean, you got to really think about these things. Something could happen to me today, and I want to make sure that the people that I have gone to battle for and backed up and done everything, I need to feel comfortable at the end of the day. If something happens to me, that they'll all step up and that the show goes on. You know, I've got kids and a family that depend on me. Right. So, you know, you need to make those plans. And if you have people on your team that you cannot rely on, good pay, good tech, bad tech, doesn't matter. If you can't rely on them and you don't have a good relationship and a good, you know, team vibe going, then, you know, you got to look at that. You got to evaluate that. It's important.
I think where the money really matters, and we kind of talked about this yesterday, you have to pay them enough. And I'm not saying that's not what you were saying, but like you have to pay them enough for them to feel that what their hard work is worth. Sure. You know, everybody wants that feeling of like, I worked hard and I got rewarded for it. If you're not paying them enough, then they're not going to feel that way. That is a key piece.
Well, and you can't get the best people by not having good wages.
Yeah.
But you have like a base, and we talk about this all the time. You have like a base pay, but you're putting a system on, and you're having the morning mustard and getting everybody fired up. Like, these are our goals today. This is where we're going to go out, and this is what we're going to make happen. Like, let's see who can go out there and knock this out of the park. And you've got spiffs in place, and you've got all these different things where you're getting, you know, reviews, or all the different pumps that are making noises out there, they're being noted in the software. All the things that are getting back to your dispatch, your office manager, all these different things. So it's like the ones that want to go above and beyond in terms of finances, they want to be a part of that whole thing, they're going to do it. They're just going to do it, and they're going to make the money that they deserve. But the ones that are like, yeah, I'm going to kind of just, you know, do my thing. I'm a cool guy. I fit in here, but I'm definitely not going to be like, you know, Dustin over here, you know, doing, you know, an insane amount of repairs or whatever, and reviews and all that different stuff. So yeah, I think that's always something to really think about, is that you can have a team of people that, you know, are making a lot of money, but maybe it's because they earned it doing different things.
Yeah, I like to see the team. I mean, the way I look at it, and I hope my team would agree with me, is that, you know, we all work together to grow this company so that we can all grow financially together. You know, like when we acquire, maybe it's a big new commercial account, it's going to be a lot of work for all of us. Like, I hope everybody knows that that's not, hey guys, FYI, lots more work coming, no more pay, I expect more now. It's, hey, the company's growing. You were here when, you know, you made it possible for me to acquire this account because you were taking care of the business while I was out making these relationships. So as we all grow together, and that's why I, you know, and I, like I said, I hope my team would agree with this. I think they would say that, I mean, that's the incentives to stick around. We've grown so much in the past couple of years, and we're all excited to see what's going to happen next. And that doesn't really happen with guys that aren't company people. They don't really care. Paycheck clears. I clean my pools. I'm good to go. Like,
you want people that respond to leadership.
Yep.
Like, that means something to them.
Right? Yeah. It's important.
So, you know, there are obviously different liability levels between the two. Can we talk about the liability level once the decision is made to make somebody an employee?
So if you have a 1099 and you're sort of doing it right, or you're making sure that those people have their own general liability insurance, I've never had this experience. Maybe you guys have, but, you know, like, let's say you have a 1099 that's run somebody over, hurt somebody, whatever it is. Do you still get sued on that? I mean, probably. Yeah. You know, you're still involved, you know, so I think a lot of people think that because this guy has his own insurance, I'm free of any liability that happens, whatever he ruins or hurts today. That's really not the truth.
Well, what you don't have control over is whether he's paid his policy.
Sure.
You know, you don't know if he's got canceled. If you're listed as additional insured, maybe you'll get a notice, you know, 30 days later, something like that. But, you know, it's the perception of who he's working for. So he hits somebody and he's got an auto plan for $50,000, but it's a $100,000 claim. They're going to go looking for everywhere. They're going to ask a lot of questions. Hey, you got some extra money come up. Your insurance only goes so far. At that point, you don't think that guy's going to say, well, I worked for Dustin. I worked for 10 years. Yeah. I got his shirt on, you know. He gave me this cool hat, you know, the whole thing. Right. So the thing is, in terms of liability, you're just so beholden to the weakest link there, you know. Something goes wrong. To me, that just opens up a whole category of liability. In terms of being an employer, you're liable for everything. But, you know, if he gets hurt on the job, you're liable. So you have workman's comp insurance. You know, if he overflows a pool, you're liable, but you have liability insurance. He gets in a car accident, you are liable, but you have auto insurance. So as Rich said, you kind of protect yourself against all the things that go wrong. And when you become an employer and you're paying stuff on the pay stubs, like the unemployment insurance, the Social Security, all that stuff is there to kind of protect you, so that when you do have to terminate someone's job, or they get fired, or they quit, or they're going on pregnancy leave or something like that, or family leave stuff, that stuff's built into it. So you are liable for all of that stuff, but because you're paying into it, then you're fine.
Yeah, I think the point I want to make too is, like you just said, don't think that you're not going to be liable in some form of way. If
don't ever try to be cute and clever to think that you're
Exactly.
going to outthink the state of California.
Exactly.
Here's a little caveat, right? So, guys in California, about California State Contractors License Board and having a contractor's license, right? So when it comes to workman's comp, you're either what? You're one of what? Either exempt or you have a policy, right? Mm-hmm. So if a guy's working by himself or doesn't have an employee, he's exempt, right? Okay. So the exemption on that is a classification through the California State Contractors License Board only. That does not mean he's exempt from not getting hurt and being sued or that coming back to you. So you could have a guy working for you as a 1099 with a C61 D35, which is a swimming pool maintenance classification for the contractor's license, that is exempt because he doesn't have anybody, and he doesn't have anybody. He's the one doing the work. But he is still susceptible to any workman comp case. If he gets injured and it's in 9 to 5 business hours, the health workers are all trained, and it's automatically assumed that it's a work-related issue. And they'll ask him, were you working? How this happened? It all comes out, and that's it. It's flagged. And then if he doesn't have workman's comp and you don't have workman's comp on him, and you hired him as an independent contractor, it is coming back to you. That is a fact. So you're not going to be smarter than the system. None of us here are attorneys, or we're not experts in the whole employment law arena, but there's just things out there. I mean, it all comes back to where you want to be positioned and how much, security you want to have and feel at the end of the day. It's just like that. And one of the things earlier that I just heard from Dustin about that I really like hearing is, you mentioned earlier about, your employees, having employees, if something happened to you, right, and you got a family and you got kids, that these employees would step in and be able to take care of the business at hand and run the business, which would ultimately take care of you in your time of need. So you're not going to get that with 1099s, I don't believe.
They're going to run.
That's the huge thing right there for an employee versus 1099. So one of the things that all of us here at this table have in common is that we've all had the privilege and honor of knowing Greg Garrett. Greg Garrett has been a mentor of mine. One of the things he taught me was the law of reciprocity. So right there, the fact that we're taking care of these guys as employees, and if anything happened to us, the fact that they would have our back the same way we've had their back, that is reciprocity right there. Yeah. So that's a shutdown right there as far as the argument for employee versus non-employee. You're not going to get any better than that.
Well said. I like that.
Agree.
Yeah.
Well, I think, we've kind of defined each one now. Hopefully, you've listened to this and kind of figured out maybe where you fit into that line. And like we talked about, there's options for you. If you don't want to be an employer, take the time and figure out that's for you. If it's not, figure out these options to get out of it. If it is for you, take the right steps to kind of make that happen. And again, we're not trying to be super negative. We're not trying to bring down the hammer on people. We just really want people to understand kind of what's happening, and what happens in California usually makes its way throughout the country. So it's also been one of the most hot topics in California, and it's also been one of the most asked for topics for us as pool chasers and as business owners. It's one of the questions we always asked. It's difficult to define this line. So hopefully we've helped define that. And, wherever you fit in this, like you guys have all said, you can reach out to any of us and talk. We're all open to talking about it, but we appreciate you guys coming and spending time with us and making the shift and adjustment to do it in this Airbnb instead of
Absolutely,
the live
man.
show.
Yeah, no
Anytime,
problem.
man.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
glad to be a part of it. Thank you for inviting us.
You guys mean a lot to us. Thank you. You guys have been a key part of Pool Chasers for us, and your episodes are some of the most popular episodes we have because you guys do things the right way, and we really respect each one of you for what you do. So
Yeah, we're really honored to know you guys because we know how hard it is to run a pool service company, and we never got to the level that any one of you guys are at. So we have an insane, deep appreciation for where you guys are at and all the hard work you had to put in to get to where you are. So great work.
That's awesome. Thank you. And thank you guys
guys.
for what you're doing. You're doing a big thing for this industry. And I think a lot of people everything's changing. People are jumping on board. So you guys are a big part of that. So thank you guys.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thanks for checking out this episode. If you want to find out more about our guests or the sponsors of the show, you can check them out on the links we have provided in the write-up below. We have also provided links to our social media platforms, so please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Our tag is Pool Chasers. If the podcast has brought you any value, please do what you can to support us through our Patreon page by going to patreon.com/poolchasers. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast to be updated each time a new episode is released. One last thing. If you're not yet in our Facebook group, join it today to be surrounded by like-minded individuals who are all trying to better the industry. Thank you all for the support. We appreciate your time and your ear.
See you out there, Pool Chasers.